How you guys doing today? Welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys 10 reasons why I keep coming back to my Steam Deck OLED even after I have purchased the Nintendo Switch 2 here. So if that's something you guys were interested in, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into this video. So the first is the design. So as you can see here, this is the Switch 2 and you'll notice that it is bigger than the original Switch, but playing this is not as comfortable as the Steam Deck. Now, holding the Steam Deck here, I feel like Valve really thought about this device. As you can see here with this grip in the back, it does make it really comfortable in the hand to hold. And I feel like the joystick placement is in a really good position. Now, my hands after about, I would say 15 minutes or so, cramps up on the Switch. Looking back, you can see there's no grip back here, right? So again, just holding this, it feels flat in the hand, and after about like 10-15 minutes, you definitely start noticing that your hands start to cramp a little bit. I personally feel that the Steam Deck is nicer to hold in the hand when gaming for sure. It just feels comfortable, snugs really well. Now, the second reason is the screen. Now, this is a 7.4-inch screen compared to 7.9. You might as well call the Nintendo Switch an 8-inch screen, but as you guys know, this is an OLED display, and personally, I feel like games just pop more on this display. Yes, this is a 1080p and this does 120. As you guys know, the Steam Deck OLED does 90 refresh rate. So yes, this is a bigger screen and has high refresh rate, but personally, I just think games look better on the Steam Deck. As you can see here, the black really pop and the colors, look at the yellow here, it really pops in the red. As you can see here, it really pops. So OLED on the Steam Deck OLED is quite impressive. I mean, just look at this artwork and look how it's just popping up. But the Switch does have a pretty good screen, but for some reason I do prefer the Steam Deck OLED screen over the Switch screen. So the third being my Steam library. So as you can see here, I have 411 games. So all my 411 games just carries over to the Steam Deck. With the Nintendo Switch, it does have backward compatibility, but they do have this thing, they add features from the original Switch games to take advantage of the new specs for the Switch 2. As you can see here, Breath of the Wild, it's called the Nintendo Switch Edition. For Steam, you don't have to worry about that. All your games just run smoothly on here. You don't have to worry about buying or paying an additional price tag to get better performance on the Steam Deck OLED. Let's say you have a Steam Deck LCD, the same game that you bought on Steam takes advantage of the OLED screen and all the features that this has. So the fact that you just pretty much can bring your Steam library in here and not have to pay extra for the additional features that comes with the OLED is a win compared to what you have to do here on the Nintendo Switch 2. So another reason why I keep coming back to my Steam Deck OLED is the pricing, right? So this right here is the OLED model and you can find this one for $550, but this also an LCD model that you can find for $400, which is pretty similar to this, but you don't get the OLED screen, and the battery I think is better on this. But for $399, it is cheaper than the entry point of the Nintendo Switch 2, which starts off at $450. Super Mario Kart bundle, it does come up to $550. But if you were to get the refurbished OLED, it's $430. So again, still cheaper than buying this one brand new. And for what you get with this, don't forget, this is a PC, just not a console. You do get more for this than you do get with just a console to Switch. So I feel like personally the price is better. All right, so next is the battery life. As you see right here, if I open up my Steam, I can come here and with 73% battery, I'm able to get an hour and 40 minutes. Now I played the same game on here and I get at fully charged about an hour and 40 minutes as well. So to see this one at 73% and I'm getting pretty similar what I get here on my Switch, I do think that the battery on the Steam Deck OLED is actually better than what I'm getting on my Switch with the same exact game. I also tried this with Hogwarts Legacy as well, and I noticed that I was getting better battery because again, this is an 800p display and this is a 1080p display. So you're not getting full HD with this, but again, you do get better battery life, it seems like, with this as well. So again, that's a huge plus for me here. Another thing that keeps me come back to my Steam Deck is the fact that I don't need to pay for a performance upgrade. As you see right here, this is the Steam Deck OLED. I also have the Steam Deck LCD. Now with the Steam Deck OLED, this is the same game again from my Steam library. And as you can see, I can come to settings and I can come here to graphics, and I have access to mess around with my graphical settings. Over here on the Switch, I had the same game on the original Switch, and they have a Switch 2 version of this game. And in order to get that, you do have to pay $10 to get the graphical improvement features of the Switch. Again, I'm going from a Steam Deck LCD to an OLED, and with that, I don't need to pay anything, and I do have access to mess around with the graphics. As you can see here, they just updated this game with FSR3 with frame generation, so I'm able to run this at 60 FPS, and it looks gorgeous here. So again, I didn't have to pay for that graphical improvement compared to where on the Switch 2, coming from the original Switch to this, to see this game run with the new specs of the Switch 2, I had to pay a $10 upgrade for that. Another reason why I keep coming back to my Steam Deck is the fact that with the Steam Deck, I have access to Microsoft games. I have access to Sony games. So with this, you are exclusively locked to Nintendo games and also some third-party games. But if you want to play all other console games from Microsoft and Sony, this is a PC, and Sony Microsoft port the games to PC, and so you can play games like Halo, you can play games like Death Stranding, you can play games like Gears of War here, Ghost of Tsushima, and you can even go a step further and you can emulate on this, right? So you can go here and emulate the Nintendo Switch. So again, I can play Xenoblade Chronicles here on my Steam Deck. So with the Steam Deck, you can play a bunch of games compared to where with the Switch 2, you're just locked to Nintendo Switch games. So again, you just have the freedom to do a lot of cool things here on the Steam Deck. Another reason why I keep coming back to my Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch 2 is the fact that the online features are not locked under paywall. So in order to play multiplayer games here, in order to talk to your friends here, you need something called Switch Online, and you have to pay for that. With Steam, you don't need to pay that. You can talk to your friends, you can play online games, and you don't have to worry about that. And to go a step further, when it comes to online saves, now with Tears of the Kingdom here, I got really far in my original OLED, but I stopped playing my Switch for, I believe it was a year, and now my save files is wiped away just because I cut my online membership for this, right? So again, if you stop paying, you have a time window, and then if you don't pay in time, all your game saves are wiped. So I lost all my game saved. I was really close to beating this game, so I have to start all over. With Steam, you don't have to worry about your game save getting wiped if you don't pay, right? Again, there's nothing to pay, and your game saves for ever, from what I'm aware of, right? So I can just pick up any game from my library here, and I can just continue where I left up and not have to worry about a paywall behind that. All right, fellas, that is pretty much it. There's a lot to love about the Steam Deck, and I feel like for this being Valve's first entry into the handheld space, they've really knocked this one out of the park. To where, as you guys know, Nintendo's a pro with portable gaming, and I feel like even with the newest Switch 2, the old OG Steam Deck OLED still gives it a run for its money. Can you imagine what a Steam Deck 2 will look like compared to this, with new graphical improvement and also some new features to the design? I fellas just want to highlight this one. I am liking the Switch, but man, it definitely makes me appreciate the Steam Deck more. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Till next time, peace out.